Hey, it's Whitney. Thank you for tuning into another video. I wanted to make a follow-up video to the most recent one, which was the first video I had done in a few years. So if you haven't watched it yet, it would definitely help for you to see that one first to get some context. And first of all, one of my new things with my brand is to have my part-time assistant look at comments before I do and kind of filter them through so that I don't get discouraged when I get negative comments. And the overall gist that I got from her was that many of you were very supportive of the things I talked about in that video, and some of you were really unsure about it and my choices. And then today I did a Facebook project, this new thing called Watch Party, and somebody from clearly this channel came on and said that I had lost them, meaning like it seemed like they no longer, they felt like disappointed in me or something. That was the gist I got, because I talked about how I'm trying out the plant-based keto diet. And I wondered, did they think that I switched entirely to keto, like animal-based keto? And so I just want to reiterate, in case you just saw the title or you haven't watched it yet and you're like wondering what's going on, like I'm still vegan, I'm still plant-based. And also the other concern, there were a lot of concerns about the health sides of things. So I just want to address that a little bit and tell you that, as I talked about in that video, this is a big experiment. I have been trying out a plant-based version of the keto diet, which is a low-carb diet, for about a month and a half, I think. And my initial idea was to try it out for a month or so and see how I felt. And I've actually felt really good from it and got some great results, which I'll just tell you, like, definitely lost some weight, which is one of the main reasons that people do keto. And that was part of where I started feeling curious about it, because I felt like I had gained weight. I didn't feel great in my body, and it felt like really overwhelming. So I was looking for something that would help me work through that, because I was so confused as to why I had gained weight. And once I switched over and started trying the keto diet, I feel like I understand now, because monitoring my carbohydrates, I got a great perspective of how many carbs I was eating. Like, I am shocked when I turn over bags of food. This is mainly packaged food. And I would look at it and be like, oh my gosh, like, I had no idea there was that much sugar in these things that I was eating. So I think what was happening is I was just like filling my body with so much unnecessary food. And one of the best parts of trying out the keto diet for me is that it really simplified the way I eat. So I'm actually eating a lot more whole foods. I'm going to have to pause in like 10 minutes if I'm not done with this video by then, because I have cauliflower roasting in the oven right now. That's like one of my favorite things to make. I eat like tons of vegetables and all sorts of new protein sources. And it's just been like a really good experiment. So for those of you who just feel like confused and concerned, I just want to say, first of all, in addition to all that, diets are a very personal choice. And I think that it's so easy to judge other people for their dietary choices. And we know that as vegans, you know, I have experimented a ton my entire life. I think I've been very, very curious about diets. And if you didn't know this about me, I had disordered eating, and it's probably still in me. I don't know if it ever goes away. When I was a teenager, because I didn't understand why my body looked the way that it did. I didn't like the way my body looked. And I tried all sorts of extreme things to try to lose weight and to look the way I wanted to. So I've gone really unhealthy, right? I was also not vegan for a good part of my life, right? And eating horrible junk and processed foods. So going vegan was really great for me, because I really learned more about food and nutrition. And I remember when I first went vegan and vegetarian, people were very concerned. They said, you know, are you sure this is healthy? Are you sure that this isn't too restrictive? Like, people were just incredibly concerned back then. So I feel like I've been hearing concerns about my diet my whole life. growing up, I was eating too much sugar, or I was doing, eating too many potato chips or whatever. Like literally, I feel like so much of my life, if not my entire life, somebody has been saying something to me about the way that I eat. So it's just kind of funny that I've spent the past 10 years with this brand Eco Vegan Gal really studying every element of the diet, from nutrition to animal rights and the environmentalism. And I don't have a medical degree, but I've read so many books by doctors and studies, and I just feel like so immersed in this world. And I've also developed a better intuition about the way that I eat. And I really think that it comes down to tuning into how you feel and being aware and being open to change. And so when all these people like make assumptions about why you're doing something, or whether something you're doing is healthy or not, or whether it's right or wrong, I honestly, I don't know if there's one right diet. Veganism and the plant-based diet really appeal to me because there's so many ethical benefits and health benefits and environmental benefits. There's just a ton, the pros way outweigh any potential con, right? But there are plenty of people out there that don't think that the plant-based diet is the healthiest diet or the most sustainable diet. And then there are a ton of people, who do believe in that, right? So who is right, who is wrong? I just don't think that there's one right or wrong. I think there's the right way for you in terms of how you feel, and maybe even the right way temporarily or the right way right now. That's why, for me right now, I'm just curious. Like, that's why I'm trying out a plant-based version of the keto diet. It's curiosity. I've had great results, and it's just kind of fun. Like, I enjoy it, and there's a lot of really great pros. All the pros of trying this outweigh the con, right? And I think that this is just such an important reminder, whether it's me or anybody else that we come across in our lives, is not to make a lot of assumptions or judgments on somebody. And changes in diet may be very temporary. I don't plan on doing a keto diet long term because it's pretty strict and restrictive, and it's a little hard, right? But I also don't know what's going to happen after I finish experimenting. I don't know how long the experiment's going to go. I don't know if it'll transition into something else. Like, I really don't know yet. I'm honestly just taking it day by day, meal by meal, and just adjusting how it feels overall, mentally, emotionally, physically. And so far, I'm really enjoying it, So this isn't just about my experience. I think this is just an important topic, that it's so easy to point fingers and to make judgments and try to push your way of eating onto somebody else, or judge somebody for how and you don't know their history. You don't know why they eat that way, how long they've been eating that way, how long they intend to eat that way. You don't know what they've tried and what they're working on and all of these things. And I feel like it's so important to have compassion for the ways that people eat. And just because somebody's doing something right now, who knows, they could learn later that day something about their diet and decide to change it. This happens to me all the time, I often when I went gluten-free, another great example, I went gluten-free 8 years ago in 2010, and it was also just curiosity. And I discovered that I get inflamed from gluten. I had no idea. No one had ever told me that. I didn't know the elements of gluten that may not work for my body. And so it was just simply an experiment that I discovered I feel a lot better when I don't eat gluten, and that works for me. And then over the years, you hear all these different opinions about gluten, this, and that. And it's sometimes you just have to listen to it and then decide if that's going to impact you or not. Just because somebody has an opinion or does some research on it doesn't mean that you have to do it exactly that way. And also, there's a book that came out, it was a couple years ago, by Jordan Younger, and it's called, what's that book called? Something about, it's kind of like an anti-vegan book in some ways, but I've known Jordan for years, so I kind of saw through a lot of the backlash that she got around that. And if you read her book, it talks a lot about orthorexia and how veganism didn't work for her because she got too restrictive with it. And that part of the reason that she became vegan was because she was obsessed with restriction and doing things right. And I read that book and really related to it. Veganism works really well for me. It feels good to me. I haven't had like any negative health effects by going vegan. In fact, I've had pretty much all positive benefits to going vegan. But for some people, they don't experience that for whatever reason that is. I have no idea because I'm not that person. But when I read that book, I could really relate to this idea of wanting to control food so much and wanting to get things right. And I think a lot of that stems from how I was raised, and a lot of that stems from our culture. We have this obsessive culture around perfectionism, wanting to get things right, wanting to like make the right decisions and control things and be right. And there's so much in our ego. And that to me is really what's unhealthy. So for people that become super obsessed with somebody else they're doing and putting labels on whether they're healthy or not, we have to step back and take personal responsibility for those thoughts and opinions and ask ourselves, why are we judging what somebody else is doing? You know, we can offer up experiences. We can lead by example. We can share data. We can share food. We can introduce people to things to them. But then we have to let go and let them make decisions on their own. We can't force our mentality, our way of eating on someone. We can't force them to think a certain way or believe something. And sometimes, like, when it comes to food, it's a really sensitive subject for me because of my disordered eating. And I was probably borderline orthorexic, and it's a fine line. I have to be very careful when it comes to food. So there are enough voices within me trying to make all these, my mind is like got all these different ideas and different research and things like that going on with it. And so to hear outside voices, it just adds to tension. And I'll wrap this up because my cauliflower is done, and that means I get to eat some delicious dinner right now. But I think you get my point by now. That's a little rant. I didn't fully mean to go on. It was more of like an explanation, but that's a little update, and I appreciate you watching. Thank you for being part of my journey. And I'm going to go get my cauliflower now. Stay tuned because I've got a lot of content coming from you about my experience on the keto diet. So I'll see you very soon either in this channel or another one of them. Until next time, bye.